Hi, welcome to Keto Life Support, where we make your keto life sustainable, fun, and low stress. I'm Kim Howerton from theketonist.com, and I'll be coming to you weekly with some of my keto besties to bring you the practical, real-world keto advice that you need. Quick disclaimer, I am not a doctor, and even if we have a doctor in the house, he or she is not your doctor, and nothing on this show should be taken as medical advice. Always check with a trusted medical professional about your personal medical concerns. Hi, and welcome to Keto Life Support. We are here today with Kim Howerton and Neisha Salisbury. Say hi.
Hey.
Right? So, Neisha is coming up to us from her new abode in Nashville. How's it going there?
Oh, it's going good. We're a little empty here, so if it's a little echoey, that's why. But we're getting settled and enjoying all the tasty treat options that we have here because we have a Whole Foods and a Sprouts and a Publix, like all within, 15 minutes of us. So that's been delightful.
Oh, that's nice. That's a bit of a different situation.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So speaking of delightful shopping options, I was hoping we could talk a little bit today because you're a mommy-to-be and a stepmom. So you've already got kids in your life, in your house, in your fridge. So I want to talk a bit about kids and keto and food.
Yes,
so for a couple of years, you've had teenagers, right? And how's that been having a keto house with teenagers in it?
Well, it was kind of a struggle because teenagers are just, they don't want to listen to anybody about anything, much less telling them that they don't need their Takis or their cookie dough ice cream or, whatever. But lately it's been less of a challenge because Morgan is very, very adamant that she wants to be keto 100% of the time. So she doesn't cheat. She doesn't stray. Like the closest thing that she's come to cheating is when she went to a wedding in Florida and they had coconut shrimp and she ate some coconut shrimp. But I can't get her to cheat. I've tried. Been like, don't you want something sweet?
You're being a bad
because I'm pregnant, so Yeah, and she won't stray. She's she wants to go grocery shopping and get her almond butter and her bacon and eggs and butter, and like she knows what she likes, and she's very on target. So it's been nice, and she's the one that's at our house most of the time, so that keeps it easy. But Abby doesn't stay with us as much, but she definitely is not on the keto wagon. But she is an athlete, so she can get away with a little bit more because she literally works out 24/7. So, but Morgan is not an athlete, and she had gained some weight and had acne and had some a cyst on her ovary and had some things happen, and it really turned her into the direction of, oh, maybe I should listen to my stepmom and dad, and maybe I should stop eating Taco Bell every single night. So it's been nice.
Good. Well, yeah, I think there's a challenge, like as people come into keto at different phases of their life, some of them already have children, like you and Dr. Barry, who are used to eating a certain way, and now your house is different. And in the case of the girls, they've also got a mom, they've also got another house where it's not keto, and now you've got the further complication of two different households.
So Morgan at her house, she goes grocery shopping and she stocks the refrigerator for her. And so that because she's got a driver's license and a job now, so she's able to, provide for herself. So that helps for her. But Abby's the opposite. So when she comes to our house, she's like, there's nothing to eat here because it's all, veggies and steak and ground beef and chicken, but there's no like reach and grab stuff like, the chips and the salsa and that kind of thing that she's used to just going to the pantry, grabbing it, taking it to her room, watching Netflix and just, eating a bunch of junk food.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are a lot of ways to teen, and that is
there are.
But then there are also the people who went keto either before they had kids and now they're bringing kids into this household, which is what's happening with you here, or maybe they went keto when their kids were really little. And I think those psychologically are a little different.
Oh, they're completely different because we're fighting So with the girls, we're fighting years of habit, years of eating whatever they want, and plus they're teenagers, so they're around a bunch of, outer influences at that point. You don't have them in the safety of your home and control over, what they see, what they eat, what they drink, etc. Whereas with this baby, we have a fresh blank slate and are pretty supported by, our friends and our family to be able to trust them to keep the baby and not be like, here's a cake pop.
Right. I mean, some people have that problem with, especially with their parents or their in-laws. Like they just can't, like what Maria on a recent cruise we were on, right, was talking about the struggle she has when her parents watch her kids.
Yeah, exactly. So we're very lucky to have, my mom is very much on board now. She's low carb. She has Hashimoto's as well. And finally listened. She didn't say she was listening. It just happened. She came in one day and Ken was like, you look skinny. She's like, I've lost 15 pounds. I've been doing keto. I was like, okay. But it took a year and a half for her to listen to us, which is fine. That's just, there's no difference between teenagers and adults, really. We all are stubborn and we all have to make the decision on our own to change our lifestyle because it is hard. But this baby won't have a choice. But he won't know what he's missing either because, he will just know that avocado is real food and hamburger is real food and steak is real food. And he won't miss a cookie because he will never have had a cookie until, someone offers it to him when he's 7 and at a birthday party or something. But, we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah. I also think that if you get your kids accustomed to flavors early, they are a lot more likely to appreciate those things. There is some sort of psychology around that.
There is, and the palate is so influential, like easily influenced, because even our palates that, you and I and Dr. Berry, we all ate crap for however many years. And then when we finally got off all of that stuff, and we've talked about, eating a ding dong or something and thinking, this is not even good. Why did I think this was good? Because we're so used now to real flavors and real food that we can taste all those chemicals and the wax and all that crap that they put in that processed junk, that it is possible to, dislike that stuff and change the way that you taste. But we're hoping that by only giving this baby whole real foods and even no fruit or no sweets in the first year, that's what we're trying to stick to keep his palate from being tampered with, basically. That will set him up for a lifetime of not even wanting the sweet stuff, because he will just know, well, that's a treat. That's not real food. That's not something that I eat on a daily, and I don't even want it daily. Hopefully. We'll see.
Yeah. So so you are planning to do something called baby-led weaning. Is that right?
Right. Yes.
What is that?
And well, there's a book on Audible. It's really great. You guys can check it out. But she doesn't promote keto, and she talks a lot about how babies need carbs and stuff that we definitely don't agree with. And she says, you should be careful with how much salt they eat, which we also don't agree with. So nutrition based, that book isn't exactly where it needs to be yet, but
not the foods.
Yes, the method is very common sense if you think about it. So ancestrally, we didn't have rice and cereal and mush for these babies to eat. We basically gave babies the food that we were eating. So baby-led weaning is that once a baby is able to set up and has the motor function to grab something and put it in his mouth, he is able to at least start on real food. So that's around 6 to 7 months for most babies, maybe a little earlier for a very small amount and maybe a little bit later for others. That's just the middle ground. So 6 or 7 months, they're able to do that on their own, and they can eat avocado or scrambled eggs or even steak, because if you cut steak in like a strip, so where their chubby little hand can grab it and there's still a little bit so they can gnaw on it, they may not be able to eat the actual steak, but they can gnaw on it and get the enzymes and some of the protein and that kind of stuff out of it, which is just the beginning of the baby learning, oh, this is what I like. I don't like this, et cetera, et cetera. But it's not, you don't puree anything. You don't mush up anything. You just let the baby grab off your plate. You're not going to make it choking size.
Right. Yeah. Cause, that's why you cut the steak actually bigger. Because
right.
Are probably not safe.
Mm-hmm. So that kind of like meat and stuff needs to be, and she talks about how to cut it specifically for the baby to be able to gnaw on it without risk of choking.
It's like a chew toy.
Babies, yeah, exactly. It is a chew toy. So babies actually have reflexes to keep them from choking. And by giving them puree food, you're kind of messing with that reflex. So if you give a 4 or 5 month old baby mush, they'll tongue thrust and push it right back out. And we've all seen babies do that. And it's not because they don't like the food. It's just that's to keep them from getting choked because it's too early for them to be eating anything at 4 or 5 months. And a lot of baby foods will say you can start on 4 to 5 months and go ahead and get them on, because get them on all formula and all that stuff. But it's just your baby needs to progress the way that he or she would naturally progress. So that's why she says motor function wise, able to sit up on its own. That's when your baby's ready. If he can grab it and put it in his mouth, then he's ready to start introducing real foods. And babies will play with their food, and that's fine. Like, babies make messes. They poop their pants. You know what I mean? Come on. So a lot of people will argue, well, that's messy. But babies eat messy. It don't matter if you're trying to spoon feed them or let them do it on their own. And you're taking away a lot of autonomy when you spoon feed the baby. She goes into the psychology behind that you don't know when the baby's full. You're telling the baby when it's full instead of letting him eat until he doesn't want to anymore. And obviously you're still breastfeeding or whatever you're doing, supplementing during this time because they still need nutrition. This is just playtime basically with food. And then eventually they'll, transition to where that's what they eat. But the psychology behind it is even more interesting because the whole point of taking away that autonomy and teaching a baby that they don't know when they're full, that they need to eat everything on this plate kind of thing, like, has that fed into the obesity increase? Maybe, because we literally don't know when a baby's full. How can you tell? You can't tell.
Right. Yeah, I know. And when you're breastfeeding, right, they will, when they're real little, they need as much as they can get. So they'll be little, eat all the time. But, but, if you watch older kids, they'll breastfeed for a while and then they'll get up to play. They aren't they're gonna listen to their own satiety signals.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that's another thing with formula is the formula comes in a bottle. It's not we know formula is not we try if we have to supplement, we'll do it with goat's milk because apparently that's the best alternative. But the fact that it's in a bottle and that we're measuring the amount that the baby needs and that it comes out so fast, the babies that are bottle fed tend to eat way, way more than they normally would if they were on the breast because the flow is not the same, the interaction's not the same. And so even the bottle can affect how a baby's satiety level hits. That's why a lot of babies throw up because they're drinking it so fast, they don't know when to stop. And then they get full and then there's no room in there. The baby's bellies, are super, super small when they're, a month to 6 months old. And there's nowhere but up to come.
Oh, that's interesting. That makes total sense.
Right.
Yeah. So, because I'm trying to think back on the babies that I don't have any kids, but my friends who have had babies, I kind of do think the bottle fed ones threw up more. Babies are always spitting up, but it's a little bit versus a deluge of formula coming at you.
Exactly. And so those babies, if you take them to a pediatrician, they'll say that baby has reflux. But is it?
Why do they have reflux?
Why? Yeah, exactly.
This is a super touchy point, right? For a lot of moms, breastfeeding, bottle feeding.
Mm-hmm.
I think because there's so much mom guilt, right?
Yeah, moms take everything personally, and it's just kind of built into them, I think, because it's on them. They
Yeah.
take everything on them. But, we know several people who did not feed their babies keto or didn't breastfeed, but now they're doing everything different, but they don't beat themselves up over it. They're just like, well, now I know better. Now I'm going to do better. Just like Lauren Berryhill. She transitioned her little boy, I think, when he was 2. And so now he's full blown keto, but she also has the fight with her in-laws. I think he gets cake pops when he's with grandma and grandpa. So she's like, oh, but she has definitely made that transition for her baby. And, she was just like, I didn't know what I was doing exactly. And then I decided one day, if I'm feeding myself this way, why wouldn't I feed my kid this way?
Right.
It just makes sense. But yeah, we don't mom shame around here. We don't formula shame. It's not your fault if, some women don't want to breastfeed or they have issues or whatever, but it's not your fault that there's crappy alternatives. That's the big formula. That's their problem. That's their shame on them, because there should be an alternative for moms that doesn't include the first 3 ingredients being sugar, and soy.
Right. Yeah. I've got a good friend, Carolina, who's also keto, and she had twins and, at times didn't have quite enough milk supply for the twins. And she used a milk bank. So I guess there are these things out there where women
donors
who produce a lot of breast milk will donate breast milk. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is really cool. So some women are overproducers, is what they call themselves, overproducers. And so they have to go through screenings to make sure that, they don't have STDs, AIDS, hepatitis B, like all those things.
Yeah.
Right. You have to go through a screening process. And then there's these donor banks where you can buy other women's breast milk for your baby, which is incredible that is a thing now, because, back in the day, we would have just had a wet nurse, but, most women don't want to hand their baby over to someone else's boob, and I get that. That's, no, I mean, it's a little much, but you can do that. But a lot of the women that I've talked to that didn't want to use donor milk used goat milk, and apparently it's like the second best thing to breast milk.
Goat milk, that's really interesting.
Enzymes. And it's better because of one of the protein enzymes breaks down properly as opposed to a cow's milk, because a cow's milk is not made the same way as human milk, obviously, but goat's milk is very close in the proteins and the enzymes and all that good stuff. So if you don't want to use donor bank, then goat's milk is the way to go.
So could a child, I just don't know anything about this, could a infant given just 100% goat's milk, say you're adopting a baby, so you don't have, there's just no option to breastfeed.
Right.
Could an infant thrive on goat's milk?
Apparently, I've had many women message me, and older like lay midwives, the ones that aren't medical midwives, because there's a difference. Right. They're much more well versed in like alternative holistic ways and stuff like that. And yeah, they say that goat's milk has made many a fat baby. So there you go.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So you're planning to breastfeed. If you need to supplement goat's milk, then you're going to go to baby-led weaning, and you're going to try and keep the taste as savory and not sweet as possible.
For as long as possible, yeah. And then obviously for, his birthday party, we'll probably ask Kim Howerton to make a birthday cake or something like that, because she's really good at the sweet, savory stuff. But we just really want to keep him from being influenced by anything that could potentially set him up for a lifetime of disease and weight struggles and like all the things that we've seen other people struggle with. Like if we have the power to keep that at a minimal like risk level, then obviously we're going to do that. Now, will we eventually put fruits and stuff in there? Maybe like berries, but we're not going to puree anything. Like the only thing that we might mash up is like if I chewed a piece of steak and then like gave it to him. But that's like me chewing it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we won't get the baby. And what's hilarious is up until about 3 months ago, that's exactly what I was going to do, make my own baby food. And I was going to puree it and like put the little labels on it and
I
like
mean,
the
it's
whole
very
bit.
cute. They're very cute, little jars.
Yeah, it's good marketing. But then we got to thinking about it, and then I found this book and I read it, and I was like, it looks like I'm adding a step where a step doesn't need to be. And so we just both decided that, yeah, that's stupid. And also, it's easier. And I get this a lot from other women that are like, oh, well, you say you're going to do that, but then that's a lot of work. And I'm like, actually, that's less work because I won't have to cook anything. Like, I will literally cook what we're eating. And then if he wants some of it, he can have it. And if not, he'll breastfeed that day. Like, whatever. It's less work, actually. So I think it's just, people think it couldn't possibly be that easy. It must be more complicated than that because we've been told that it should be. You need all these different packaged goods, and here's some Cheeto treats and like all this stuff that kids don't actually need or want. They don't know that those things even exist until you hand it to them, and then they're gonna want it after that.
Yeah, it's funny. I've seen a couple of videos of like baby's first cake where like they take a bite of the cake and it's like they look like a crack addict. Like they're suddenly
like,
oh my gosh, what is this?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm thinking back to a good friend of mine's baby. She's not keto, but she did kind of a baby-led weaning, and that baby ate just a lot of egg and avocado. Those were like what the baby wanted to eat. Yep.
Yeah, and that's the super easy food. It's the easiest food ever. Like egg, you whisk it, throw it in a pan, and then you just lay it on a little plate, and then they just go to town, and avocado, super mushy. So, I mean, you don't have to worry about that being a choking hazard at all. So even if steak scares you, you don't have to do that. There's plenty of other foods for babies to eat that don't include rice, oatmeal, the cereal crap, those stupid puff things.
Oh God,
all that
packaged crap. Choking hazard themselves.
Yeah, like people get really upset when we say we're going to let our baby eat steak, and I'm like, it's not even choking size. Like, I'm not giving it a hot dog.
Right. So I was going to ask you, but I think you answered it. Like, are you planning ever to let the baby have a sweetened thing? And you said on occasion.
Yeah, because I mean, I think we ancestrally did find the honey pot, just like Dr. Berry says, and did we eat the crap out of it? Yes, we did. So I don't think that doing that is a horrible thing. I'm not saying that sweets are the devil or whatever, but we don't eat them every day. We don't eat them every week. We don't eat them every month, but maybe once a year, and it would still be a very good, clean, as low carb as we could possibly get type of treat. And the thing is, even if your kid gets older, Maria tells this story about her little boys being at a birthday party and they wanted to eat a piece of cake, and she was like, fine, eat a piece of cake. And then they puked everywhere. Nice. Because their bodies they're not into that stuff. That's just not what they're used to. And so even if your kid decides one day, I want to have a treat, you can be like, sure, it's going to make your tummy hurt, but if you feel like you want to do that, and then she said they don't ever ask for anything like that again. So.
Right.
So I think that's good.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think giving, when they start wanting some autonomy and learning for themselves, I think it's certainly a lot better than trying to enforce something.
Yes, exactly. I think that's a good way to set your kid up to just go ape shit. At kindergarten, whenever, they get introduced to food at school and they're like, my mom never lets me have this. I'm going to eat it all, as opposed to like, I had it one time and it didn't make me feel so good. So I don't think I'll have it. I think I'll have, some almond butter instead, or, whatever their little treat is, fat snacks, or if you make homemade goods, like Maria makes the boys alternative sweets. Apparently she has a Pop-Tart recipe that's good, and I'm going to try it out because I really am craving Pop-Tarts right now, like hardcore.
Oh no.
It's awful. Like our new laundry room, it's just the lint, like how the dryer gives off a little burnt smell. It smells just like a Pop-Tart in there. And
oh no.
it's really triggering me. And before I was pregnant, I never had any of those kind of triggers, but these hormones, like, they just want me to eat stuff. But and my point is that there's plenty of recipes out there for alternative. Kim has what's it called? Thrive Under 5. Your
Oh yeah,
cookbook.
I have a cookbook called Keto Thrive Under 5.
Right, and there's some sweet treats in there, and they're super low carb.
Yeah, one of the tricks I found if you are somebody that is super carb intolerant, but you still want a treat for a special occasion, is things like puddings and panna cottas. And I even just this morning, this isn't in my cookbook, but I even this morning was reading about somebody making ice cream and just adding vanilla and cinnamon, keto ice cream. It was like, but it was just eggs, cream, vanilla, and cinnamon. They didn't even add any sweetener. They just wanted the rich taste. And so there are absolutely ways you can make sort of luxurious foods that fit your needs.
Exactly. And a lot of the time, if you, like, somebody was telling me the other day that they had made a keto dessert and took it to an event and didn't tell anybody that it was keto. They just brought it, and that people were like, this is really good, because you can't, the ingredients that go into keto things are so rich. They're the basic things that would go into a dessert anyways. The only thing that we change is the sweetener and the kind of flour, if it even involves flour, which, like you said, a lot of it can just be cream and like cream cheese or whatever. Like a keto cheesecake is pretty much the simplest thing you could ever make. And it's delicious.
Keto cheesecake is identical to a regular cheesecake, but you take the sweetener out.
Exactly. And maybe you make the crust out of a nut or something, or you don't even need a crust, honestly.
I mean, is the crust really necessary when you've got cheesecake?
No. Yeah. No, it's not. And you can, the Lakanto syrups, you could put those over them if you wanted to do like a berry, because those are all made with monk fruit. Now, I was going to ask you this. I'm going to ask you on a podcast.
Sure. Hopefully I know the answer.
Does Lakanto, because I heard you say that a lot of things that are sweetened with monk fruit are actually monk fruit, like christened with monk fruit and more erythritol. So is Lakanto, is it actually monk fruit, or is it mostly erythritol?
So it depends on the format. So you have to think about monk fruit. If you've ever seen natural monk fruit, like powdered monk fruit, it is this very strange looking powder. It is like gazillions of times sweeter than any sweetener you'd want to use. So powdered monk fruit is almost impossible to cook with unless you're doing like ginormous batches. Because even using like an eighth of a teaspoon in a whole recipe, it's like disgusting. So manufacturers have to add it to something. So Lakanto specifically makes monk fruit drops. Well, there they've added it to water. So it is pure monk fruit, basically.
Okay.
But the monk fruit, the Lakanto, like granular or powdered sweetener, those are added to a significant amount of erythritol. Because they need it. A lot of recipes require the sweetener to have bulk to it. It's part of the texture. The syrups they have, those, it's been a while since I looked at them. If I'm using my memory properly, it's monk fruit and a bunch of inulin, which is inulin is a fiber, and it's a sweet fiber. So the issue with inulin for a lot of people is it gives a lot of people gas. Now, I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, I'll put it in the show notes. I think that's what's in these the Lakanto syrups to give it the texture and kind of fill it out. Yeah, so if you're a fiber sensitive person, a lot of these syrups can be really challenging.
Right. This one says, the one that I'm looking at, it says that it is purified water, monk fruit sweetener, erythritol. So it's
it is erythritol. Yeah. So see, I don't know. I was just guessing. There is a syrup. There is a syrup out there. I don't remember the brand that has a bunch of inulin in it. So
yeah, but there's just good alternatives, especially if you're transitioning your kid and you're not, starting them out like me and Dr. Berry are from the beginning. These are things that you can just start switching out in your pantry And your kids won't know the difference unless you're like, this is different, you know,
Right.
like
They don't know one syrup from another syrup.
no, unless they're, you know, older than 9 years old and they can read the label and
Right.
like see, you know, they're not paying attention. They're just like, whatever, does it taste good?
Yeah.
So those are some good alternatives.
And erythritol, of the sweeteners that are technically
Right.
sugar alcohols, I think is really one of the best tolerated by
Yeah.
most people.
Yeah, it seems to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about lunches because I've got a mom group on Facebook and it's called having a moment. You know,
What's
pregnancy.
your group called, Neisha?
Team Mama,
Okay.
PhD based nutrition. Team Mama, and Kim can link it in the show notes.
I'll put it in the show notes.
But over there, we had a lot of women really were concerned about packing lunches for their kid. And this seems to be one of the most common struggles for moms. And I think a lot of moms are just so used to the complicated lunchbox that they think that it has to be that complicated. So me and a few others suggested bento boxes, which you can now get at Walmart, TJ Maxx, on Amazon. You can get them anywhere. And that basically looks similar to a Lunchable once you get it packaged and sorted. So you can, you know, put lunch meat in there and a good cheese and a fat snacks cookie and boom, there you go. I mean, that's basically what a Lunchable is. Almond butter, anything like that. It's like you don't have to overcomplicate it. Just meat, cheese, and if your kid wants to eat fruit and you're okay with that, then, you know, some fruit is not the worst thing that's ever happened to a kid. So especially if you're transitioning them, you know, apples look better for some kids in their, you know, the psychology of a child is a very complicated thing. They want what their friends have. So I would put, you know, the fat snacks cookies, I would take them out of the wrapper and just put them in a Ziploc bag. So it doesn't look any different than any other cookie. No kid is going to be like, that's a weird cookie. Like, they don't have to know that it's not Chips Ahoy. It's a chocolate chip cookie and it's a chocolate chip cookie, whatever. But just making it look like just real food without the packaged stuff in there will keep your kid from getting maybe targeted by other kids being like, what's that? What's that? Your mom doesn't pack, you know, fill in the blank. It just looks like a regular lunch. If it's just meat and cheese and a cookie and maybe some like celery and almond butter or whatever, that is just a normal average lunch as far as I'm concerned. You could have a hamburger steak, and that's, you know, that sounds really fancy for a kid. Wow, you get hamburger steak instead of hamburger no bun. You know, you just don't call it whatever would make your kid feel uncomfortable by saying, oh, well, I don't get to eat the bun on my cheeseburger. No, they're having a hamburger steak.
Right. Absolutely. There are always ways to turn it. And I will say, like, cloud bread is pretty easy once you get the hang of it. And
truffles, apparently.
Yeah. And cloud bread makes a great hamburger bun. And from a distance, no one can tell it's not a normal. I mean, not that we're like ashamed of being keto, but being a kid and being different. No kid wants to be different. And so
no, you don't want to put your, you know, a target on your kid unless they're one of those kids that really thrive in that. Some kids are like, I'm different and I'm proud. And
I think Ken Berry was that kid.
Me too. I was telling somebody the other day, I loved Hot Topic because I thought I was really alternative, right? That's hilarious now thinking back. But I had one of those messenger bags, and on my messenger bag, I had a patch that said, what did it say? Conformity is a disease.
Nice. Nice.
So yeah, but now chaffles are a thing. So if you want to throw some chaffles in there for your kid, so that looks like an Eggo. Yeah. For breakfast, if you wanted to give your kid an Eggo waffle to take with him to breakfast, put in a little Ziploc bag, boom, that no one knows. And Eggos are super in because Stranger Things, the little girl in there eats Eggos all the time. So like nothing about that screams, I'm a weirdo, I'm a freak, you know, target me. No, that's just a lunch. Just don't put labels on things, you know?
I mean, what kid wouldn't want like a little container of like a keto syrup and a bunch of not really Eggos, but look like Eggos to dip it in,
right.
You know?
Exactly. It's the same thing. You don't have to tell your kid it's different either. Because it's really not. Why do we have to label things? You know, we don't. That's just something that society has told us that you need to, like, I'm not trying to like out vegans, but I'm just saying, you don't have to introduce yourself. Hi, my name is Kim Howerton and I eat keto. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like a lot of vegans do that. That's a meme for a reason. Like, I'm vegan. And, like you don't have to talk about that stuff. Your kid doesn't have to talk about nutrition. He or she doesn't have to go out of their way to explain why they're not eating something. Just say, it makes my stomach hurt. That's what Morgan has started saying when her friends are like, hey, don't you want to eat whatever? And she's like, it makes my stomach hurt. And that's it. She leaves it at that.
Yep. I think in society these days, people understand food intolerances. I mean,
yes.
There are a lot of people that don't eat a lot of things.
Yes. Yes, there is. For sure. Because, everybody's gluten intolerant, lactose intolerant, allergic to peanut butter. Like, that's not something that's uncommon in conversation.
Right. So one of the things that I thought about recently, and this has nothing to do with the topic, but it just popped into my head, actually old people, like how we talk often about how hard it is to transition your grandpa to keto when he's got dementia.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I started thinking about? Just make him a ton of chocolate keto cake because old people like sweets. Anyway.
Well, that's a very good point because, elderly people and children are very similar in a lot of ways. So a lot of this stuff you could take and apply to your, grandma or grandpa who is having health problems, because alternatives are what you're going to go for in an elderly adult as well. And the reason old people like sweet stuff is because with age, you start to lose your senses, but one of the last senses to go is the sweet taste. Mm-hmm. And so that's why in nursing homes, you see a lot of, the elderly people, they will only eat their dessert because that's what they can taste. They can't taste anything else.
Yeah. But I think it's a really good idea not to, talk about sweets the whole time, but I think it's a really good idea that you're trying to train the baby to enjoy savory as food, because so many of our kids, if it's not sweet, they just don't want to eat it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that's because the palate gets addicted to that. Oh, it tastes good. Oh, it's sweet. Oh, I feel good. That rush, we've all been there. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And so in terms of when the baby's coming, are you planning it sounds like to me you're just kind of planning a bohemian thing where the baby will just be with you, coming with you, eating your food, going back to the earth here.
Yeah, we've bought nothing. But nothing. We're doing also elimination communication, which is a whole nother topic, but it's where you basically start potty training from the get-go. It's very interesting. Like, we don't have time to talk about that, but so we have cloth diapers, and we'll have like a few disposables. There's some that are made now from bamboo, so they're biodegradable. So I'm not trying to like muck up the planet any more than I already have in my 33 years. So we're trying to be green, but also it's just like, I think people really get excessive when it comes to babies, and there's really no reason to. You just end up taking up a lot of space in your home or your apartment with stuff that you don't use, the baby doesn't need, and then you're also wasting money. And we're trying to become a little bit more minimalistic, which is funny if you know me, because I'm not a minimalist.
You're a lot.
But yeah, I'm very extra. But when it comes to the baby thing, I'm super minimalistic, but I think it's because I don't want to get away from what truly is important with babies' growth and development. And I think once you start integrating toys and swings and bouncers and all that stuff so early, you take away the human interaction. And I think that's important for brain growth and development and all of that stuff. So this baby will not be put down. We will be baby wearing. So we have, even Ken will be baby wearing. We have the wraps and the things, you sit them in and buckle them in. Lots of skin to skin time. Ken is not allowed to wear a shirt while he's holding the baby for the first few weeks. Like, it has to be skin to skin. Like a lot of things that, most people keep the baby, swaddled or bundled and stuff like that. And that's not, we won't be doing any of that. We'll be trying to do it as hippie as possible while I wear my Jimmy Choos.
As it should be.
I'm a fancy hippie. I don't know.
That's right. Although I hear a rumor that you've been wearing Birkenstocks while pregnant.
Oh, I have. Oh, they're awful. But they are so comfortable. They are rose gold though, so they're the most
Okay.
extra Birkenstocks I can find.
All right. Well, I'm from Berkeley, California, and so Birkenstocks are like
Yeah,
our national shoe.
that's right. That's right. Oh,
So,
I wanted to mention Fox Hill breads too,
oh, right.
because those are a really awesome thing for people who are transitioning their kids, because that bread has the texture of bread, the feel of bread. I compare it kind of to the Outback Steakhouse, the brown bread.
Mm-hmm.
It has that look to it. So, but it toasts so well. So if your kids are into like bagel pizzas or bagels, they make a everything bagel, and they make the little mini rolls so you can cut them up and put them. Those are perfect for the lunchbox because they're tiny. But
Mm-hmm.
they're like, if you wanted to make mini burgers, those would be perfect for that. The croutons, if your kid likes salads, like, I don't know what kid likes salads, but
I
there's
did.
probably one out there. Did you? Okay.
Yeah.
So their croutons are amazing. They're garlic. They've got garlic seasoning. They're made in olive oil. All of her stuff is nice, clean, real food. Like, you can't even let it sit out. Once you get it, it needs to go in the freezer because it'll start molding because there's no preservatives or anything in it. But those are great for peanut butter and jelly or almond butter. And what was that jelly that we found?
Nature's Hollow.
Nature's Hollow. They have jellies. So you could make peanut butter and jellies, like little bagels or something, using those breads. There's just so many options out there now. We're so lucky.
Yeah.
We don't promote a lot of products, but the ones that are quality, like Fox Hill Farms is quality.
Fox Hill
all
Kitchen.
the real salt. Fox Hill Kitchen. What did I say?
Farms? Is it Farms? I think it's Kitchen.
It's Fox Hill Kitchen. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know why Fox Hill Farms. I'm sure that's actually something.
Oh, you know what? Anyway, yeah. Yeah, there's a bunch. There's a couple of good products, and yeah, Neisha, Ken, and I are all pretty limited on the products we recommend. But Fox Hill is definitely at the top of the list of something. Now, it's not cheap, obviously, but you're going to pay for convenience. They'll ship you a bunch of bagels. I like the bagels a little better than the rolls, but they've got these bagels, rolls. You can keep them in the freezer when you don't have time for anything else. You can throw some lunch meat on there. They're fabulous. Yeah. One thing I did want to bring up on this was some people get a little tense about one thing, which is, so, as an adult, when we go keto, some of us just did the kind of more like, I just eat these foods, I don't eat these other foods, and I don't worry about macros thing. But a lot of people get really anxious about macros. And as an adult, that's valid. You can do that. But then they transfer that anxiety to children. And I would like to not do that. I
don't think that it's necessary.
No, you don't need to track your child's macros. You don't actually, in my opinion, need to limit their keto-friendly carbs. Like, if they love broccoli,
let them eat it.
Yeah, kids are naturally far more insulin sensitive than adults. They have a higher carb tolerance if you don't screw it up.
Yeah. Now, if your kid is already past the point and they have, diabetes already, then yes, their carb intake does need to be managed. But if your kid is healthy and you're starting this early, then there's really no reason to stress yourself out and stress your child out, because that's going to lead to them having an unhealthy relationship with food, which is what we're trying to avoid here.
Right, absolutely. And yeah, your point, though, is very valid. I was thinking about a child sort of growing up eating a whole foods diet, not a, but yeah, there are kids as young as like 10 or even younger who are being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes already. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is ridiculous, but it is far more common than it should be. And even the obesity rate in children is so high these days. I would definitely watch the amount of carbs that are coming in through like processed sweets, like keto treats and stuff like that. But I wouldn't necessarily talk about it with your kid, because that's going to make them feel different. And if they're an obese child, they already feel awkward and different, and they're maybe they've been made fun of, and you don't want them to feel any more uncomfortable than they already do. But you as a parent can be like, 2 fat snacks that's it, give them a limit, but without messing with the psychology.
I know,
Kids are just so impressionable.
so sensitive. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's sort of tragic. But I have 3 nieces and nephews, 2 girls, 1 boy. And my oldest niece is 12, and she is in that age where you're starting to see the effects of, not her specifically, but like her friends, the effects of parents who've like over restricted, and it's not so much about like they didn't have sweets in the house, but it's the comments they made. Oh, you shouldn't eat that, you'll get fat. It's the way that you present it. If a kid just grows up in a house where there's no unhealthy food, that's a very different thing than what I see more often, which is very sad, is a kid growing up in a house with unhealthy food and then being told that they have to like control themselves around these foods.
Right. It's like, here is all the unhealthy foods, but don't eat them all because you'll be fat, but we're going to eat them, but only in moderation. And that word, oh my gosh, that word, because what does that even mean?
Right.
Moderation is the most relative term you could possibly throw out there, and it gets used in nutrition all the time. And it's so frustrating as a person who's coming from like, that doesn't matter actually.
Yeah.
Moderation doesn't mean anything, because moderate for you and moderate for me are 2 completely different things. But in keto, low carb, carnivore, moderation isn't even a thing.
Right.
You don't have to tell me how much steak to eat. I can just eat it until I'm full, and that's how we eat. We eat till we're full, good, healthy, real foods. And that's the relationship a child needs to have with food. Not like, I could eat this whole bag of chips, but I'm going to try not to. But then they end up eating the whole bag of chips. And then they start
feel bad.
And then they feel bad. And they're like, well, I won't eat anything else for the rest of the week. Or, like all these things, children and the psychology and the mental development that they're going through, that's just an extra burden on them that shouldn't even be there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, these foods are designed, these ultra processed, ultra addictive foods are designed for us to be impossible to moderate, at least most of us. Yes, there are some people that can, but the majority of us can't. And there are actually scientists designing them to be that way. So to put that much expectation on a 7-year-old, just ridiculous.
No, it is ridiculous. And you're setting them up for frustration and stress and possibly a food addiction and maybe depression and who knows what down the line, because they're not capable of understanding all of that, especially at that younger age.
Right. I mean, adults can't do it.
Yeah, exactly. Like these, like you said, they're scientists that know the pleasure point that, on a food and all of this like crazy stuff that will trigger us to just eat more and eat more and eat more and eat more, even though we're full. Yeah. We don't want to be full. We want to keep eating because it tastes so good.
But yeah, I mean, I have to commend my brother and his wife. They have done a really good job with the kids. They're not keto, but they're kind of paleo, and the kids can have an ice cream if they're out. If they're like, go to an ice cream parlor, it's a special occasion, it's a vacation, but they don't keep ice cream in the house. They can, they'll buy a pie if it's a holiday, but they don't have a pie sitting in the fridge on a Wednesday.
Right. It's a treat, but it's not a reward, because that's another thing a lot of people do is I see a lot of people do with potty training is they give the baby candy when he goes to the potty, or she, goes to the potty, and here's candy. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure that works, but down the road, is that something that we want to associate with reward? Is food,
Totally.
Because you can do toys. There's so many things you can give your kid that doesn't involve sugar.
Yeah, that's a very valid point. Like, child bribery is real because it works.
Yeah, it totally works.
Pick something non-destructive to bribe your child with.
Right. I mean, if you, like, even for little boys, Matchbox cars, like, they freaking love it. They're 99 cents. And little girls, you can get them the little like accessories for their doll. Like every time you go potty, we'll get whatever
Right.
what works for your kid. But I like candy, probably not the best thing to start your kid off with.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, but at the same time, like, I just want to say, like, to the moms and dads out there who are doing the best that they can. And
yeah, you got to do what you got to do. We get that.
we totally get it. But you can also like set yourself up for failure or set yourself up for success. And I see Neisha and Ken really trying to set themselves up for success here.
Yeah, we're trying. I think a lot of people are like making bets like, we'll see how long that lasts, blah, 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 blah. You don't know me. I am stubborn. I'm stubborn and I'm competitive. Like that's you could call them bad traits, but I think that they're good.
It gets you far in life. I think you mentioned something earlier that was a really good point, is that a lot of people are like, you don't know, that's going to be a lot of work. Mm-hmm. But you're like, no, it's going to be less work. Like,
yeah.
Set yourself up for success in an easy way.
Yeah, exactly. I think in the long run, it's going to be less work anyways, because, well, I think health-wise, our child will not need to be in the ER as much, hopefully, less cold, less eye infections, ear infections, like all that stuff that comes along with poor nutrition in a lot of kids. Hopefully we won't have to deal with cavities, all of that kind of stuff. We're just looking at the big picture. I'm going to struggle. Like mom life is a struggle. There's no way to get around that. It sucks at least for 2 to 3 years. The kid is your whole life. You don't get a life. Suck it up. That's part of having a baby. That's my mentality. I'm not looking for the easy road. I'm looking for to do the best that I can for my kid and have the big picture be as positive as possible down the road. Like I'm not looking for the easy fix. I think that I waited a long time to have a kid because I was not ready for that responsibility. But I'm 33 years old, and I'm not worried about not being able to go to the club because I got to breastfeed my kid. You know what I mean? Like those things aren't a struggle for me because I signed up for that. I signed up for the mom life. I signed up for the struggle that's going to be, mom life, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and I think like I said, you have a couple of luxuries, one of which is you don't have to go back to work in 6 weeks.
Exactly.
And that's super helpful. And I totally get that a lot of moms don't have that luxury. And so we just want to say, like, we are a no shame zone. We're talking about how to optimize things, and maybe a mom out there who can't do the whole shebang. She's not going to do the hold the child over the potty situation because she can't.
Right. I'm able to do these extra things because I'm going to be attached to my child literally 24/7.
And she has to use disposable diapers. Like the world won't end, but maybe from some of these things you can pick up some of the behaviors.
Yeah. Anything is better than nothing, for sure.
Right.
So yeah, moms beat themselves up. You just don't do that. You're doing the best that you can. Tomorrow is another day. If you had a failure today, that's not a failure. That's just a lesson. And pick it back up and start over again. Like just move forward. You can't change the past. There's no reason to beat yourself up over that stuff. And if you can't do everything, do what you can, and that's good. You're doing good.
I mean, and like if you're already, if your kid's already doing a bunch of hamburgers and French fries, over time transitioning them to eating the hot dog without the bun. There are little steps you can take that in the long run will mean your kid will be a much healthier adult.
Yeah, there's an umbrella here. You can go the extreme route that I'm going if that's the way that you want to go, or you can go the way that Lauren goes or the way that the Vegas go. There's all kinds of ways to do this. And it all depends on you, your life, and your child. Every mom is different. Every kid is different. Every home life is different. What works for me may not work for you, and vice versa.
Right. Absolutely. And Lauren's a great example. She wasn't keto when she had her baby. She wishes she was, but you can't go back and change time. And he was already 2. And so she had to deal with the hand she was dealt at that time. And that's what we're all doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You just got to follow your path. And as long as you're consciously aware that, you you're doing the best that you can. And just being aware is better than where you were probably 2 or 3 years ago, because none of us knew. Like, I didn't know any of this stuff. I would have just been, feeding my kid baby's first cookie and a lot of the puff things, 3 years ago. I didn't know any of this stuff. So where I am now is completely different from the mom that I would have been 3 years ago. So I would not have been doing any of this stuff or even thinking about it. So don't feel like if you're not where I am, that's wrong, because that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything that you think we haven't covered that people need to know about feeding kids, things to keep on hand?
Being flexible is the main thing, because kids can be so picky. So in my mom group, there's a lot of women who are like, my kid will only eat bacon and eggs and avocado, and I can't get him to eat any vegetables. That's fine. Just as long as your kid is eating something like that, let them eat it till the cows come home. Or if they don't like that, but they, just be flexible to your baby. If they're in that baby phase, you just gotta, you literally play it by ear. And then, as they get older, or if your kid's 5, 6, 7, you just got to be flexible to what is going to work for you in your life and the age gap that you're in. And are they in school, and are they an athlete? Don't try to put yourself in a box. That is the main thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Children are a constant surprise.
Yeah. What they like today, they will hate tomorrow. And that, even Morgan at 17, I swear she changes every single day. She can say, I love this today. And tomorrow she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I've never liked that. So, yeah.
Teenage amnesia.
And I don't fight with that. I'm just like, okay, yeah, all right, cool. I don't care, whatever. You don't fight. Pick your battles for sure. For sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. Well, this has been awesome. So thank you for talking about the babies. When are you due?
October 24th. I'm hoping he will be here in October. That would be great. But, it's my first baby, so I could be a week or two late. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, it's good. You've managed to steer clear of the holidays. Like you're, because that, you don't want to, I'm sorry to anybody this is going to offend. My brother's birthday is late November, and it's right in that Thanksgiving, Christmas span. And it just gets, the poor things, they get a little, neglected.
They do. Everybody forgets, it's your birthday. It's also Christmas. Like, which one do we celebrate? Yeah, no, I'm pretty happy that October is like the perfect month. I love October, but he'll probably be here in November, and that'll be my birthday.
Well, if you're still pregnant on Thanksgiving, on Halloween, not Thanksgiving, that would be bad.
That would be awful.
On Halloween, you can always dress the belly like a pumpkin.
That's my plan.
All right. I will talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us on Keto Life Support. If you'd like more, you can join our friendly Facebook group, Keto Life Support. Can't find it? Go to ketolifesupport.com. If you ever want to suggest a topic for discussion, that would be the place to do it. We'd really, really appreciate it if you would go to your podcast app and subscribe, because that's awesome. And what would be super awesome is if you'd be so kind as to write a review for us. Though we would love it if that review was awesome, just writing a review is all we ask. So have a fabulous keto week, and we'll see you next time.